Hello everyone, I hope you're having a fantastic day. Thanks so much for joining me. Today I'm doing the 10 cards 1 kit with the Love from Lizzie December 2017 card kit. We're not going to waste any time, we're just going to jump right into card number 1. Now I'm taking this pretty pale blue polka dot pattern paper, and I'm going to adhere that to the left side of this pattern paper here. And then I'm going to take a rectangle die that is about a ½ inch smaller than my card base, and I'm going to cut out a panel with that, both of them at the same time. I'm also going to cut out a very vanilla circle. I'm going to trim off the circle a little bit, and then to give it a little vintage feel, I'm going around the edges with my Vintage Photo Distress ink. I love that look, and I'm also going to go around the circle as well. I'm just going to go ahead and add my circle to my panel. I stuck it down, but I think I wanted to raise it up a little bit higher. I think it balances a little bit better. Okay, next I'm going to take 2 of these stickers. Now I'm going to cut out the stickers. I want the inside rows of the larger sticker, and I want the sentiment from the square. While I cut those out, I want to tell you that today I want to do a little bit something different with the card kit. Lizzie's kit always comes with 5 sheets of cardstock that you can create 10 cards with, but I decided to change it up a little bit, and I wanted to use very vanilla. It's a very pretty cream colored cardstock for all 10 cards today. This way I could use the cardstock that came in the kit as panels in the cards that I created. So just a little something different, but here I cut out my elements, my sticker elements, and to give them a finished look, I'm going around the edges of these as well with the Vintage Photo. Also my sentiment. The sentiment in this sticker is really cute. It says live every day with a purpose. Just to finish off the edging, or the seam line here, I went in with some ivory colored jute cord, and then I really wanted to use this calendar. I thought it was a cute idea to put on a card. So to thin it out, I'm just grabbing the top 2, and then I'm going to cut out the twine that's holding it together. Now I wanted to leave the twine on there. I kind of like that look on the card. So to secure it down, I'm just using some double-sided tape. I distressed the edges of my calendar there, and I did flip up the edges just in that one corner to give it a weathered look. Now I popped up my stickers with some fun foam, and I placed them on my little scene here. Now I added tape behind my panel and taped it to my card base, which again is my very vanilla. It's a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base. I'm just removing the bow and decided to add a button. I love these little wagon wheel buttons, so I'm just threading it through and then tying the bow on top of the button, and then I did secure it with a glue dot. But that's it. That's my very first card. So we're going to move on to card number 2. I love this color. It's just cheery, so I'm cutting out a panel with this polka dot paper here. Now I was going to use this pattern paper here and then change my mind, so we're just going to set that aside. Now for the centerpiece for this card, I wanted to use this wood veneer frame. I'm going around the edges of it with some score tape. It's super sticky tape, and then I am going to do some embossing. Lizzie's kit came with some Fluffy Snow embossing powder, so I thought it would be neat to go over the frame with that. Now I started off using my Versamark pen, and then it just wasn't juicy enough, so I just put that whole panel on top of my Versamark ink pad, and then I'm going over it with the Fluffy Snow. Now the Fluffy Snow is very delicate. Once you have it down there, it's very easy to smear, so be very careful with your Fluffy Snow. I'm just going to remove the backing off of my sticker, and then on the frame there, I cut out a piece of the white tulle that came in the kit. I'm going to place that right on the back, and then any excess hanging over, I'm just going to trim around. And I did smear some of my fluffy snow, so just be real careful when you use that stuff. It's really pretty and it's very textured, but it's very delicate. So there's my frame. Now I cut out a piece of this pattern paper here, and I added it to my orange pattern paper, tied a bow with my ivory jute cord, and then placed that on my card base. Again, this is a very vanilla card base. Now I wanted to use the sticker that said Bellissima, and so I added it to my frame, and since it was a sticker I thought it would stick, but all it did was pull up my embossing powder, so I'm securing it back down with some glue. Just placing that in the center of my frame. And then I'm going to add a few of the little sequins that came in Lizzie's kit, and then just for something different, since it's all polka dot, I thought it'd be fun to add some of the pearls to the center of the sequins. And that's it. That's card number 2. Very fun card. I think the orange is cheery. So that's card number 2. Okay, now we're going to move on to card number 3. Card number 3, I wanted to use this beautiful rose die, and so I'm going to cut out 6 of them on a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock. Now I did add some Post-it tape behind it just to make sure that my pieces stayed put, because I want to do some coloring. I'm starting off with some Distress Oxide inks. This one's Wild Honey. I'm going over the roses, and then just daubing a little bit of the worn lipstick over the roses to give it a two-tone look, and then I'm finishing off the leaves with some peeled paint. I think those colors are so pretty together. Now I'm going to pop all the pieces out of my roses, and so I have 6 real pretty roses. Now, I cut out a panel. I think they're so pretty. I cut out a panel with the orange cardstock that came in the kit. Now this panel is just slightly smaller than my card base. And then I did cut out a panel using the Very Vanilla cardstock that's slightly smaller than my orange panel. I'm just going to arrange my roses on this panel, and then I'm going to secure it down with my multimedia mat. And there we have it. I think that looks so pretty against the ivory. Okay. I'm going to trim off the excess. And then just using my tape runner, I'm going to adhere that panel to my orange one. Lovely. I think that looks so pretty. Now we need a sentiment. I did pop the whole panel up with some fun foam. I have a piece of the Very Vanilla cardstock, and I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says "Live every day with purpose." I think these are very encouraging sentiments, and I love them. Just using my VersaFine ink, I'm going to stamp that on my cardstock here. And I didn't stamp it very good the first time, so I'm just going to flip it over and try again. And the second time's a charm, so it stamped pretty. I was a lot lighter handed. I'm going to trim down my sentiment. Lovely. And that's going to go right there. But I decided when I finished punching out all those roses, I did add a little bit of accent of the vintage photo on the edges of the roses. So that's what I also did to the sentiment, just to make it all flow together. I'm going to secure my sentiment around the entire panel, making sure it's straight here. Just wrapping it around the back to the fun foam. And then again, I'm using my Very Vanilla cardstock. I'm going to place that right in the center. For bells and whistles, I went and grabbed some sequins, just a few, and added them around the sentiment. And that's it for that card. Now, for my next card, I'm calling this my Valentine's Day card. I'm cutting out a piece of this tulle, the same size as my cardstock. Now this is just cardstock that I quartered, so it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. I'm going to cut out my panel with the tulle together, and when I did that, it kind of tore the tulle on top, so I'm just going to trim it down. So this piece of tulle is actually going to fit on the inside of my red panel here. And I think that looks really neat. I love that. Okay, we're going to set that aside. Using that same red cardstock, I'm going to cut out a heart. And then also there's pattern paper in the kit that has these cranberries on it. I'm going to cut out a small panel with that. I'm going to adhere my tool to this red panel with some double-sided tape, just in the center. And then this panel should cover up that tape, so I wasn't too worried about it. So we're going to doctor this up. I wanted to use these two roses, but they were a little bit real vivid red. So just to dull them down a little bit, I'm going in with some Vintage Photo. And it really gave it a richness, and I really like that effect. I went around the edges of my panel and the heart with Vintage Photo also, and then I secured my heart to that panel there. I'm going to add a little bit to the center of the heart, the Vintage Photo, just to give it a little more antique look. Now we need a sentiment. For this sentiment, I chose Always in My Heart, and I wanted a red ink, so I'm going to grab some Cherry Cobbler ink. This is a Stampin' Up! Ink, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment on my very vanilla cardstock here. In my stash, I have a stitched edging sentiment die. I just cut out my sentiment, and there we have it. That's going to go in the center of my heart there, and I'm going to arrange the flowers to the left of that. Now, I thought it needed just a little something more. So in my stash, I have a leaf die. I cut out 3 leaves using the green cardstock that came in the kit. And now we're going to assemble. I've just popped up my sentiment with some fun foam. And then you can see here I'm taking a paintbrush, and instead of cutting off the wire, I decided to loop it. And I think this gives a nice effect to the card. Plus it adds a little bit of greenery to it too. I often do this with my wired flowers. I'm just going to arrange it right next to the heart with some glue dots, along with my leaves. And then I pop that panel up with some fun foam and place that on my tool panel there. Just using my tape runner, I'm adding it to my card base. And that's my Valentine's card. Very simple, but I think it turned out so pretty. Now, for my next card, I'm taking this wagon wheel piece of vellum, and I found a circle that will cut out the wagon wheel and leave a little bit of the silver edging on it. Then I'm taking the same size circle die, and I'm going to cut out this pattern paper. Now, this circle's my vellum circle is going to go right on top of this pattern paper, and I'm just going to secure it with my tape runner, which I ran out, so I got to grab another one. I'm just going to secure that right on top of it. Lovely. Okay, now the kit came with this beautiful silver doily, and I thought it fit that wagon wheel perfectly, so I'm adding tape behind it and placing my doily behind it, and I love that. Next, I'm taking this pattern paper, and then I'm going to take this red pattern paper. It's really pretty, and I'm going to cut out 2 small strips. Now this pattern paper is going to go on the top and bottom of my card. So I cut out my panel using the striped pattern paper here, and then here you can see I'm adding that red to the top and the bottom. I'm just going to trim off the excess here. I'm going to use my tape runner and adhere that directly to my card base, which is 4 1/4, 5 1/2 inch, very vanilla card base. Any extra I just trimmed off. Now that's going to go there, so I'm going to flip this entire panel over and just trim off that excess there. Now I wanted to add a little dimension, so I'm going to pop this up with some foam tape. And then that's going to go there on my card base. Now I wanted to use the sticker, but it was a little bit long, but no worries. I still like the sentiment that says dream and believe. So using my scissors, I'm just going to fishtail the end right after believe and cut out the do. I like the do, but it just didn't fit. Just to give it a backing and so it doesn't drown out on my card, I added some very vanilla right behind that sticker. I'm going to trim it down and then I'm going to add some foam tape right behind it. That's going to go there. I added my foam tape, and I thought it needed a little more, so Lizzie's kit came with this beautiful silver ribbon that has leaves on it. So I'm going to cut I cut out 6 leaves, and I'm going to add 3 to the very top of the sentiment, and I'm just going to secure it with my tape runner, kind of in a cluster, 3 in a cluster on top and then 3 in a cluster on the bottom, and then place that on my card base. And that's it. Very simple card, but I think it turned out real pretty. I think the silver just makes it shine. So that's it for that card. Now, moving on to card number 6. This one is my absolute favorite. And so I cut out a panel, slightly smaller than my card base. And then I cut out a red, well, the panel is very vanilla. And then the larger panel, I used the red cardstock that came in the kit. And I wanted to use this beautiful ribbon. It has shiny, beautiful cranberries on it. So just using some double-sided tape, I wrapped it around the center. Well, I tried to wrap it around the center of this panel. I was off just a little bit, and it kind of drove me crazy, but I think I could work with it. I added some foam behind it. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this red cardstock to my card base. Right in the center. There we go. Okay, now we're going to doctor this beautiful ribbon up. Okay, I have these cranberries that came in the kit. I've got 3 of them, clustered them together, and then I'm just twisting the wire. And then to use my scissors, I'm just going to trim off the wire a little bit and then curl in the wire on the bottom so it's not pokey. Okay, next I am going to take this green cardstock that came in the kit, and then I'm using one of my leaf dies from my stash, and I cut out a green leaf. Now I am going to also use this die from my stash. It's a scroll swirly die, and I thought it would go perfect here. So using the same red cardstock that came in the kit, I cut out my little swirl, and I'm just going to add this swirl to the left side of my card towards the bottom with my Nuva Deluxe adhesive, and it stuck pretty good. To secure my cranberries down, I'm going to use a large glue dot. I kind of wrapped it around the wire so the bottom's sticky and then the top sticky. And then I added my little greenery. I actually cut it in 2 and layered them together. And then just to cover up that little bottom area, to have some natural twine, I doubled it up, and I'm going to tie a bow here. Trim off the excess, and then I'm going to place that right below my cranberries. And you can see I have vintage photo all over my hands, so apologize for that. Okay, place that there, and I just love that. I think that looks so pretty. Remove the backing off my fun foam, and I'm going to place this panel in the center of the red panel there. Now I did bring in, I have some red stickles in my stash. I just added a few dots here and there, and the stickles are actually the same shimmer as the cranberries on that ribbon, so it just flows so pretty. And so that's it for card number 6. Now we're going to move on to card number 7. I'm taking an oval die and a circle die, and I'm going to cut out both of them at the same time to create a window. We're going to make a shaker card. So there we have our odd looking, well, it looks odd now, but when it's finished it didn't look too, it looks better. I wanted to use this sticker. I didn't want to waste it. This is the sticker I used for card number 1. I'm carefully going to peel off the sticker from the backing. Now it was pretty thin around the circle area, but once I pulled it, it came up pretty good. And I placed that right over the circle on my oval, and I think that looks so pretty. To give it a finished look, I'm going around the edges on the inside of the circle and the outside of the oval with my vintage photo. And then instead of using acetate, I decided to use this white tulle that came in the kit, and I just put it on this little oval with some my tape runner. It secured it pretty good. I'm going to add some foam tape and go around the entire oval. I'm going to go ahead and add my sequins. I love this mix of sequins. It's very pretty. I filled it up pretty good. This is not really a shaker card. I just wanted the sequins to be accent behind that little window there, and I think the shine and the shimmer is gorgeous. And so there's my vintage photo hands. I cut out a panel using the Shutters pattern paper. Now I'm just going to secure that to my card base, but we need a sentiment. So I chose the sentiment from the stamp set that says "You are so loved." And then this is a banner die from my stash. The neat thing, I use VersaFine ink, so I'm just drying it. I didn't want it to smear. This die actually creates like a 3D banner, so I just folded in the edges and distressed the edges of that and placed it right in the center. I adhered that to my card base, and then for bells and whistles I'm going in with the gray gems, or these aren't gems but they're pearls, gray pearls that came in the kit. And then I'm also going to give it a little accent using the itty bitty silver bow that came in the kit. Place that right in the center on the bottom. And that's it for that card. Okay, now we're going to move along. Card number 8. I wanted to use this rose. I think it's a beautiful rose, and so I placed it on my acrylic block, and just using my Memento Tuxedo Black ink, I'm going to stamp all over a piece of white or very vanilla cardstock. I'll get it right. Now I'm going to color it in, all of the little roses in, using my chameleon pen. Love this color, it's gorgeous. Now this process did take me a little bit of time, so I'm going to skip the basic coloring, but there we have it. I think my roses are gorgeous. I'm just going to cut out a panel, that way you have a finished edge on here. Lovely. This panel is just slightly smaller than my card base. And then I decided to take one of Lizzie's peel-offs. This is a beautiful color, but I wanted it to be the same color as the roses. So the nice thing about Lizzie's peel-offs is you can color them with your alcohol markers. I love that. So I'm just going in with my burgundy chameleon pen and coloring them in. So I have coordinating peel-offs. So well, I'm going to let those dry a little bit, and then I'm going to stamp my sentiment on a piece of vellum. For this sentiment, it's another wonderful, encouraging sentiment. It says, "If you can be anything, be kind." I stamped it with my VersaFine, and then I'm going in with some black embossing powder. And I'm just going to go ahead and melt that. Lovely. I'm going to trim that down. I did smudge my ink a little bit, trying to get rid of it. Okay. I'm going to take the peel-offs and go around the entire border of this panel with the stamped roses. I didn't add nothing more to this card because I wanted the roses were so pretty. I just wanted them to be the show of the card. I added my vellum behind. I just wrapped it behind this panel, and then I popped it up with some foam tape and placed that on my card base. I took the real thin red ribbon in the kit and tied a double bow, and then added a few of the pearls, and that was it. Now for card number 9, I wanted to use the wagon wheel, so this was fun. I placed the wagon wheel in my Mini Misty because it was a larger stamp, and I thought I probably would need to stamp it twice, and since Vintage Photo was on my desk, I just stamped it using my Vintage Photo Distress ink. And then just to give it a little bit of dimension, I took one of my brown Spectrum Noir alcohol markers, and I added little brown details to my wagon. Now I wanted to use this piece of vellum here. I wanted to use the door and also the roses. I am going to fill my wagon with those roses. And so just to give it a more finished look, I'm going around the edges of my vellum with my Vintage Photo. So that's the basic layout of my panel here. I decided to use the Very Vanilla cardstock and place a piece right on the bottom of this panel. And you can see I used the pattern paper that looks like wood for the background. Now my vellum was getting lost, so I decided to add a piece of Very Vanilla right behind it and trim it down. That would be a little bit more vivid. Now I'm going to pop up my vellum, and then I did attach it to my wagon and pop that up as well. Now I'm just going to place my wagon on my panel, and I think that looks good right there. And then with that extra window, I thought I was just going to add it. I'm going to tuck it right behind the vellum there, just for a little interest. I stamped the sentiment that says "You are so loved," and I used my rich cocoa ink from Memento to stamp that. I popped that panel up with some fun foam, and that's it. That's it for that card. I think it turned out really neat. Okay, for my final card, I took a piece of Very Vanilla cardstock and cut out a tag. I took a piece of the pattern paper that was the blue and cream colored damask, and I cut out a smaller tag, and I stamped the sentiment on there. The sentiment, I said, says if you could be anything, be kind. I just took my ivory colored jute cord and tied a bow on the end there, and then I want to take the excess and just thread it, the jute cord through my larger tag. Now I took the polka dotted pattern paper, and I had already cut out a panel and adhered that to my card base. I'm going to kind of loop that twine behind that ivory or the Very Vanilla tag there, and I'm going to place that on my card base. I'm going to pop up the front part of this tag with some foam tape, and then using my tape runner, I want to add it to the bottom, the right side. That way it's level. And I'm going to place that the opposite way, right over the tag there. Now I wanted to use these little cluster of wagon wheels, but I didn't want the red, so I just trimmed that off. I'm using dimensional adhesive to pop up these little 3 wagon wheels, and I'm going to place them right below my sentiment. Love that. Now in the sticker sheet there are these beautiful little scroll stickers. I just love them, and I wanted to use them on a card, so I thought this would be a perfect opportunity. But instead of using them on a continuous strip, I decided to cut each scroll out individually, and I added 3 to that top part of the tag there. For embellishments, I'm adding a little bit of the pearls in the center of those little swirlies, and then I wanted to use this beautiful Neptune turquoise Nouveau glitter drops that came in Nouveau crystal drops that came in the kit. I added a few drops here and there. It's a beautiful color, and it goes real good with the blue. But that's it, card number 10. Now at the end here, there's close-ups of all 10 cards. I thank you so much for stopping by. If you got Lizzie's kit, I hope this gives you some inspiration. We will see you again real soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.